Hey everyone, welcome back. Get ready for another deep dive. Today we're heading down to College Park, Georgia, where things are getting a little messy, to say the least. We're talking lawsuits, accusations flying back and forth, and some serious tension between the mayor and the city council.
Yeah, it's a fascinating look into local politics, that's for sure. We're seeing power struggles, accusations of secrecy, and residents caught right in the middle of it all. It's a recipe for some serious drama.
And the best part? We've got a mountain of sources to help us unpack it all. News articles, meeting minutes, even a lawsuit or two. It's like an episode of Law and Order, local government edition.
Absolutely. Every document we dig into just adds another layer to this whole thing. It's like peeling back an onion, except this onion is full of political intrigue.
So let's set the scene for you, all right? Picture a typical College Park City Council meeting. But wait, hold on. Councilman Joe Karn is on the line, all the way from India.
Now, that's not something you see every day. You have to wonder, what's so important that he couldn't even wait until he was back in College Park to participate?
Right. It's a head-scratcher for sure. So Councilman Karn, calling in from across the globe, decides to use his time to make a pretty interesting motion. He basically calls out Mayor Motley Broom to exercise leadership and just settle all the lawsuits against the city. He's framing it as this big act of goodwill, for the good of College Park.
Exercise leadership, that's a loaded term, isn't it? It's like he's trying to box her in, make her look bad if she disagrees. Like he's saying, if you were a real leader, you'd just settle these lawsuits.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It definitely feels like a power play. And Mayor Motley Broom, well, she sees right through it. She calls it a publicity stunt, which, let's be honest, it kind of feels like. She said she'd rather deal with legal stuff privately, not under the microscope of a public meeting.
And you can't really blame her for that, can you? Legal negotiations, they're complicated. Having a public debate about them isn't exactly productive. But this also brings up the whole issue of transparency. It's something we see pop up again and again in College Park.
It's like a broken record, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this is where things get really good. We've got Mayor Motley Broom and Councilman Karn, still in India, by the way, going back and forth. He's sticking to his guns, saying his motion is totally sincere, all about moving the city forward. But the mayor, she's not backing down. She reminds him he can't just tell her to drop lawsuits. It's not that easy.
And remember, this isn't just any old council meeting. There's history here. This council, they've been butting heads with the mayor. They even passed that ordinance limiting how much she can speak during meetings. So yeah, every word is loaded with tension.
Oh, absolutely. It's a full-blown power struggle playing out right in front of us. And just when you think it can't get any more tense, the mayor lays down the law. She reminds Councilman Karn who's actually in charge of the meeting. Hint, it's not the guy calling in from thousands of miles away.
And this right here, this whole back and forth, it really gets to the heart of the turmoil in College Park. You've got this constant clash between the mayor and the council, and it seems like nobody's willing to back down.
And just when you think you've seen it all, things take another turn. Councilwoman Jamelle McKenzie jumps into the fray, and get this, she actually supports Councilman Karn's motion. She makes this impassioned plea for everyone to just get along, saying all this fighting is hurting the city. And on the surface, yeah, she makes a good point. Who wants constant conflict, right?
Unity sounds great in theory, but it's important to look deeper. Who actually benefits from this unity, and what are we giving up to achieve it? Sometimes these calls for unity can be a way to silence dissent and maintain the status quo.
That's a really good point. And here's the kicker. McKenzie later admits she didn't even bother discussing the motion with Karn beforehand. It's like she's caught off guard, but feels the need to publicly support it anyway.
Yeah.
But hold on, it gets better. When it comes time to actually vote, McKenzie, she abstains. Plot twist.
Talk about mixed signals, right? It makes you wonder what changed her mind. Was it the mayor's arguments? Did she realize aligning herself with Karn wasn't the best look? Or was something else going on entirely? It just goes to show things aren't always as they appear in College Park.
It's like a political thriller unfolding in real time. And the drama doesn't stop there. Mayor Motley Broom, who's known for speaking her mind, let me tell you, she's not letting this publicity stunt slide. She addresses the elephant in the room, including some things she claims have been said about her privately.
And remember, she's convinced that ordinance limiting her speaking time was a direct attempt to silence her. So this is her chance to fire back, to reclaim her narrative.
You better believe it. And she doesn't hold back. Mayor Motley Broom alleges there's a hostile work environment at City Hall, and she doubles down, saying she's just asking the tough questions on behalf of the people who voted for her. She even calls for a good faith effort to move forward, which some might see as a subtle jab at Councilman Carn's approach.
It's a bold move, calling out what she sees as a pattern of behavior, both publicly and privately. And if she's right, it suggests a level of dysfunction and disrespect that has no place in any workplace, let alone in city government.
No kidding. And this just adds another layer to an already messy situation. But before we get too deep into the weeds, we need to talk about Councilman Roderick Gay. This guy doesn't hold back, and his speech during this meeting is one for the books.
Oh yeah, Councilman Gay. He's known for cutting through the BS, and he definitely doesn't disappoint in this meeting.
That's putting it mildly. He's clearly frustrated. He calls out the council for not having his back in the past, specifically mentioning his push to build a community center and the fact that he's never been mayor pro tem. And then he turns his attention to Councilman Carn and his little motion, questioning his motives for even bringing it up, especially from India.
It's like he's saying, don't preach to us about unity when you haven't supported the things that matter to me and my constituents. It hints at a culture of, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and makes you wonder if this whole unity thing is just a smokescreen.
Exactly. It's like he's saying, don't lecture me about lawsuits when you haven't even addressed the real needs in my community. He even implies that lawsuits are practically a way of life in College Park, which, let's be honest, isn't a great look.
And you can hear the frustration in his voice when he talks about never being mayor pro tem. It's like he sees this whole thing with the mayor, this censure, as part of a bigger pattern, a pattern of the same old guard holding on to power and resisting any kind of change.
You know what? That resistance to change, it's something the residents of College Park have noticed too. And they're not too happy about it. We've seen complaints about possible Open Meetings Act violations being filed with the Georgia Attorney General's office. And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
And when you combine those complaints with the whole debacle surrounding the previous city manager's removal, it paints a pretty clear picture. College Park's government is in turmoil.
It's like every time we turn around, there's another scandal brewing.
Don't even get me started on the lithium-ion battery storage facility they approved. The residents had a lot to say about that, and they weren't exactly thrilled about the whole thing.
It seems like no matter where we look in College Park, we find conflict, questionable decision-making, and a serious lack of transparency. It's enough to make your head spin.
And it all circles back to that fundamental question. What's really driving the council's actions? Are they truly looking out for College Park, or are there other motives at play? But hey, let's save that juicy bit for after the break. When we come back, we'll dive into that dramatic vote on Councilman Carn's motion and really unpack this battery storage facility controversy. Don't touch that dial.
It was a dark, chilly night in College Park when I stumbled upon a house that sent shivers down my spine. Covered in webs, glowing pumpkins, and skeletons watching my every move. But this wasn't just any house. It was part of College Park's Haunted Homes contest. And now you have a chance to join the frightful fun. Due to popular demand, we've extended the contest through November 28th. Think your decorations can scare the competition? Submit your photo or video at unitedcollegepark.com, and we just might drive by to see for ourselves. Don't miss your chance to claim the title of College Park's spookiest home. Enter now, if you dare.
All right, so we're back. Let's rewind for a sec. Back to that College Park City Council meeting. Councilman Carn, phone still plugged in all the way from India, has just thrown out this wild motion telling Mayor Motley Broom to just settle all the city's lawsuits. And now, the moment of truth. It's voting time.
Which, let's be real, this whole motion was unusual from the get-go. It's like he doesn't even understand how lawsuits work, you know? Like the mayor can just snap her fingers and make them disappear. There's a whole process, not to mention the financial side of things. It's complicated.
Exactly. It's not as simple as Councilman Carn seems to think.
Yeah.
But you know what? Let's put aside the legal stuff for a minute. The vote itself is where things get really interesting. Councilman Carn, no surprise here, votes yes on his own motion. Councilman Arnold and Gay, they vote no. But then there's Councilwoman McKenzie.
Oh, yeah. Councilwoman McKenzie. Talk about a head-scratcher. She gave that whole impassioned speech about unity, right? And then, boom, she flips the script and abstains. Just like that, the motion goes down in flames.
It's like she realized, wait a minute, this whole unity thing might be a little shady. I mean, her abstention speaks volumes. It's louder than any yes vote could have been.
Couldn't agree more. And you know, this whole situation, it really highlights what we've been seeing in College Park. A whole lot of talk about unity and cooperation, but underneath it all, power struggles, secret alliances, and this lack of transparency that makes it impossible to know who's being straight with you.
You took the words right out of my mouth. And speaking of lack of transparency, can we talk about this lithium-ion battery storage facility? This whole thing just screams, we don't care what you think, to the residents of College Park.
It's a textbook example of how not to handle a major project, especially one with potential risks. This facility, it's a big deal, a $400 million project right on the edge of a residential area. And guess what? It was initially rejected last year because residents were, understandably, worried about their safety.
Yeah, and those fears. Totally valid. We've seen what can happen with these types of facilities. Fires, explosions, it's not pretty. And these folks, they're living right there. They deserve to be heard.
Absolutely. It's their homes, their families, their lives we're talking about. And from what we've gathered, the council just bulldozed right over them. No public hearing, no real notice. They just reversed their decision in a regular meeting. Just like that.
Are you serious? They blindsided their own residents with a decision that directly affects their lives and their safety. It's infuriating. No wonder people are up in arms. It just feeds into that whole us versus them mentality.
And that's a dangerous game to play, especially when you're talking about local government. When people feel like their voices aren't being heard, they lose trust. And once that trust is gone, it's incredibly difficult to rebuild.
It's a recipe for disaster, that's for sure. And honestly, it feels like a lack of trust is at the core of every single issue plaguing College Park. Whether it's the mayor and the council constantly at each other's throats or these questionable decisions being made behind closed doors, there's this feeling that something just isn't right.
You're hitting on something really important here. And you know what else adds fuel to that fire? The whole city manager situation. What a mess.
Oh, don't even get me started. It's like a bad soap opera over there. Where do we even begin with this one?
Well, let's start with the fact that they fired city manager Stanley Hawthorne back in January, out of the blue, it seemed like. And then, get this, we find out they paid him almost $140,000 in a resignation agreement.
Wait, hold up. A resignation agreement after they fired him? That makes zero sense. What are they hiding? And why are they throwing taxpayer money at the problem?
Exactly. It just screams cover-up, doesn't it? And then there's Emmanuel Adedaran, the interim city manager.
Oh boy, where do we even start with him? From what we've seen, his time as interim has been full of accusations. A hostile work environment, people leaving City Hall left and right. Doesn't sound like a great track record, does it?
Not exactly a ringing endorsement. And the way the council handled his potential permanent appointment was just as bad. It was like they were trying to sneak it through. The mayor and residents were raising concerns about the lack of transparency, the lack of public input, the lack of information about Adedaran himself.
So we're back to square one, aren't we? More secrecy, more decisions being made without any real accountability. It's a pattern of behavior, and it's not a good look for College Park.
It's a pattern that's eroding public trust and making it almost impossible for the city to address its problems effectively. And that's the real tragedy here.
It's a lose-lose situation for everyone involved. And it begs the question, can a city truly thrive when its leaders are so busy fighting amongst themselves and operating in the shadows? It's a question that College Park needs to answer, and fast. Man, it's tough to stay optimistic, isn't it? We've got accusations of secrecy, money being thrown around like it grows on trees, and a council that seems more concerned with holding on to power than actually representing the people of College Park. It's disheartening, to say the least.
It really is. And it raises some serious questions about the future of College Park. Can a community really thrive when its leaders are constantly at war with each other, when there's this much distrust? It's a recipe for disaster.
And that's why we keep coming back to this idea of informed and engaged citizens. It's more important now than ever, especially at the local level.
You're absolutely right. People often forget about local politics, but they have a huge impact on our day-to-day lives. Think about it. Our schools, our roads, our safety, it's all influenced by the decisions made by our local governments.
Exactly. And College Park is a perfect example. You've got this weak mayor system where the mayor doesn't have a ton of power, but even then, the relationship between the mayor and the council can make or break the whole city.
It's not just about the rules on paper, it's about how those rules are used, or in this case, abused. It's about transparency, accountability, and a genuine desire to serve the community. And unfortunately, we're not seeing a lot of that in College Park right now.
It's like those principles have completely flown out the window. Instead, we've got a council that seems more interested in silencing dissenting voices and operating in the shadows. Yeah. And that goes for everything, even issues that directly affect the health and safety of the people who live there.
And that's why it's so crucial for residents to stand up, make their voices heard, and demand better. Attend those council meetings, speak up about your concerns, and hold those elected officials accountable.
Because at the end of the day, the power to change College Park rests with its citizens. They have the right to demand transparency, to elect leaders who will actually listen to them, and to create a government that truly represents their interests.
And that's a message that goes way beyond College Park. It's a call to action for all of us to pay attention to what's happening in our own communities. Stay informed, get involved, and never underestimate the power of your voice.
Well said. So to wrap up this deep dive into the wild world of College Park politics, let's be real. It's messy, it's complicated, and there's no easy fix. But we hope that by shining a light on these issues, we've encouraged you to think critically about your own local government, to question the status quo, and to realize that you have the power to shape the community you live in.
Knowledge is power, and by staying informed and engaged, we can all work towards a more just and equitable society, starting right in our own backyards. It might seem like an uphill battle, but it's a battle worth fighting.
Couldn't agree more. So on that note, we'll leave you with this. Don't just watch the drama unfold in your own town. Get involved and help write a better ending. Your voice matters, your vote matters, and your community needs you to be an active and informed citizen. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, keep asking the tough questions and stay curious.